Hey guys, Jamie here from FGP on Friday for our regularly scheduled Freaky Fridays. So if and as when you guys come on, you can hear me okay. I'm by a waterfall here in Austin, Texas at a beautiful sunset. If you guys can hear the volume okay, awesome, I'll keep going. If not, give me a shout and I'll move someplace more quiet. But today's Freaky Friday is fundamentally about personal growth and self-help, since it seems to be kind of everywhere these days, and wanting to at least share some thoughts on the difference between two big schools of personal development and pop psych that we see out there. And the thing is that the first one is regressive self-help. And what I mean by regressive is those movements, those communities, those practices and products that tell you to go back and get in touch with your inner dolphin. Some part of you that's been disowned or disavowed, some part of you, and it could be your ability to be raw and vulnerable in communication. It could be your sexuality and owning your pleasure. It could be any of these things. And here's the trouble with these things. A, appropriately used, incredibly powerful and potentially profoundly healing to give ourselves permission to go back over steps that were skipped developmentally, places we got wounded, banged up, places we didn't get adequate or constructive information from our families of origin, all that kind of stuff, right? So I want to give full acknowledgement of the power, beauty, and healing that can come from these places. But the trouble is back to Maslow's hammer, when all you got to hammer everything looks like a nail, when all you've got is regressive catharsis, meaning let me go back, let me beat on a pillow, let me scream and sob, let me reconnect to these places in myself. That in and of itself is not an adequate vessel to carry us to our destinations. And the communities that do these things often typically experience profound cathartic breakthroughs, especially in early workshops, early encounters. And people go, oh my God, I feel all this energy, I feel all these breakthroughs, I've had all these breakdowns, this is so powerful. And that's your 80-20 right there. That initial breakthrough of catharsis is 80% you're ever gonna get from those experiences, and then the trailing infinite 20%, where you invest 80% of your time to get that last 20%, becomes addictive, compulsive, and distractive. And to give you a couple of examples, I mean, one is, reconnecting and annexing sexuality, okay? So again, for many people brought up in Judeo-Christian culture, there's all kinds of locks and blocks. Many people have experienced truly traumatic events that need to be healed. It's beautiful. But the idea that, thinking is bad, feeling is good, get in touch with my pleasure, ooey gooey, and I can spend my life and steer my ship from that place, is a crock of shit, right? It does not include discernment. It doesn't include, like, getting in touch with my emotions, my intuition, my sensuality. Awesome. That's part of being clever monkeys alive in these bodies. But it, in and of itself, regardless of the initial spike in pleasure, in increase in loss of guilt or shame, those things aren't adequate to steer us forwards. And so concluding that a regression, this is like, let's say the ship of ourselves, for instance, right? There are all these regressive techniques and tools. I learned how to be vulnerable. I learned how to communicate my feelings. I learned how to get in touch with my body and its sensations. I give myself permission for, etc., etc. I heal my wounds and trauma. That's like pulling up anchors on the ship of ourselves. And when we pull up some of those anchors that have been dragging in the mud or stuck outright on a rock, right? We pull them up and we experience this huge sense of liberation, right? But that, you can pull up all your anchors and your boat can still become, you still have to learn to set sail and navigate by the sun and the stars. And those two movements, right? Because navigation requires discernment. Where am I? Where am I trying to get to? And what is the safest, fastest route to get there? And the sails is something very different than the anchors. The sails is, what are those things that uplift me? What are those things that move me forward? Not just the removal of the things that used to hold me back. And so in the self-help industry, in pop psych, in info marketing, there's a huge emphasis, and Tony Robbins is another one, like, go back, get in touch with your feelings, rah, 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 beat your chest, bright lights, pumping music, I'm changed forever, I'm changed. No, you're not. You're having a moment of catharsis. Right? And so the idea is, how do we balance these things? Well, the simplest thing is, like, let's understand what these tools do, what profound uses they offer us, but not mistake it because of the initial contact high with the whole project of becoming. right? Because that includes, yes, it requires reintegrating those disowned, disavowed, abused parts of ourselves, but it also requires developing new and extended capacity and bringing all of ourselves online, not just saying, oh, thinking's bad, feeling's good, not saying that being strong is bad, being vulnerable is bad, they're saying all of it's necessary. Right? If you think back to Leonardo's Vitruvian Man, right, that some bitch is balanced, right? And he lives inside a circle, inside a triangle, inside a square, and it is symmetry, right? And that's the son of a bitch, because what it ultimately means is that none of these things, despite their promises, offer true shortcuts to the whole human experience, right? It's every step and no skipping, right? So think, when you think about what are those practices that in your life have offered you the most bang for your buck, the most benefit, and even which ones have the almost, the cultiest communities around them, right? It's often the ones that thrive on catharsis, regressive catharsis. And they end up invariably cul-de-sac, right? They end up with cults of personality around the people that founded them, because people keep coming back for that hit, right? And there's even something like, there's a notion of like, so we just talked about sexuality and integration, right? But let's talk about vulnerability and communication. So that's really powerful as well. And the potential power of being deeply, truly seen for who we are, to actually get beyond our narratives and our stories, is badass. I mean, breaks you open if you're fortunate enough to be in a community of people that can offer that. And yet, right, what happens? People are like, oh my God. Instead of saying, finally, I'm seen, I'm actually acknowledged as the human being, my core essence that I've always believed I am, which can be just break you to your knees profound. Instead of being like, and now I can let go of my personal narrative altogether, thanks guys, I'm seen, I'm done, I'm onward. Instead, people become stuck on the lap of, oh, let me be seen some more. Oh, who's gonna have their next breakthrough? Oh, can we just juice each other and goose each other to push to the next rawest spot? And it becomes an absolute fixation. And instead of using it to get rid of our egoic narratives as an exclusive identity contract, we become even more stuck in them. And then you end up in the trap of spiritual materialism. So just think about it in those ways. I mean, just invitation, thought experiment on a Freaky Friday, right, is regression or progression, anchors and sails. And sails are harder, navigating is even harder still, right? But do not confuse pulling up anchors and the momentary lurch forward with actually getting to our destinations, right, on time in stormy weather. So that's it. I'm on a mountain bike ride here. It's beautiful sunset, gorgeous, wherever, I don't know quite how that goes. Austin, Texas, Barton Springs. I'm gonna go bust my ass and get a little bit of anaerobic exercise to blow out the pipes from a super, super crazy, exciting, but also pretty high stress week for us. We just launched our book, Stealing Fire, last week. We're hard pressed in that campaign right now, but did just want to check in with everybody, wish you well. And I'm gonna be out for a couple of weeks doing some backcountry powder skiing in the wilds of British Columbia and Utah. So if I have Wi-Fi and if I remember, we'll be psyched to check in again on another one of these Fridays. And if not, catch you guys on the backside of March. Have a righteous spring break wherever you are. And remember, it's all of us, all the time, no skipping steps. So let's make art out of these lives of ours. Be well, everybody.